Good afternoon, everyone. Let's start with Rhodesian Man, a crucial link in human evolution. So, Rhodesian Man, or the Kabwe Skull, was found in Zambia in 1921. This fossil, classified as either Homo heidelbergensis or an early form of Homo sapiens, representing an important transitional phase in human evolution. It exhibited a mix of archaic and modern traits, making it subject of intense scientific debate. Now, as of discovery, it was largely accidental, found in Broken Hill Mine in an industrial mining setting in what was then northern Rhodesia or modern Zambia. So, a miner reportedly stumbled upon a nearly intact human skull along with fragments of other bones, and this skull was recovered without its original geological context, which made its precise dating difficult. अब ये जो term है absence of original geological context, it can be explained as you might have heard about seriation method in relative dating. So in this method, different layers are studied to compare the date of approximate date of a particular artifact. Now, any archaeological excavation usually preserve these layers, बट माइनिंग के अंदर तो ये लेयर्स प्रिजर्व नहीं रखते हैं. जैसे ही एक लेयर एक्सकेवेट होती है, इट्स डेब्रिस इज थ्रोन अवे और it layers any particular layer is dismantled. So that's why it is shown here that its original geological context was lost. Now, as of its initial interpretation and classification, the skull exhibited a mixture of primitive and advanced trait, and later Arthur Smith Woodward named it Homo rhodesiensis, considering it a separate species of human ancestor which was distinct from both Neanderthals and modern humans. But as paleoanthropology advanced, scientists began comparing this skull with other Middle Pleistocene hominin that were found across Africa and Europe. And now Rhodesian man is classified as a member of Homo heidelbergensis. And Homo heidelbergensis is a hominin species believed to be common ancestor of both Neanderthals and modern humans. Now, as of dating challenges and scientific advance, so the most significant issue surrounding Rhodesian man was difficulty in determining its precise age. Unlike other fossils that were embedded in volcanic ash of East Africa's Great Rift Valley, so this Rift Valley is famous because most of the fossils of hominin species were found here. But the fossils that were embedded in volcanic ash, they could have been precisely dated using radiometric dating. But the Kabwe skull was found in a mining operation, so stratigraphic context, the layers were not there, so the original context was lost. But later, in 2020, researchers from the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, they applied uranium series dating to a fragment of the skull, now refining the estimate to be around 299,000 years. So this dating places Rhodesian man in the Middle Pleistocene. Middle Pleistocene, जैसे जैसे आप देखते जाएंगे, especially physical anthropology, you will come to know that this period, Middle Pleistocene, hold a crucial place in hominin evolution. Because it was a time when multiple homin species coexisted and exhibited increasing behavioral complexity. Now, as of anatomical features of Rhodesian man, a mosaic of primitive and advanced traits. First comes cranial capacity. So, cranial capacity is the volume of brain that can be occupied inside the skull. So, the Kabwe skull or Rhodesian man had a brain volume between 1230 to 1300 cubic centimeter, which is compatible to both Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens. You can see the comparison here. Homo erectus from 900 to 1100 cc, Homo heidelbergensis including Rhodesian man 1200 to 1300 cc, Neanderthals the highest 1350 to 1600 cc, and modern Homo sapiens 1300 to 1400 cc. You can see the difference here. And This suggests that Rhodesian man had a brain size well within the range of early humans, indicating a significant increase in cognitive potential. Now, as of skull shape and prominent brow ridges, so one of the most striking features of Kabwe skull, its thick and protruding brow ridges, supraorbital torus, and supraorbital torus or brow ridges are bony structure located. If this is a skull, these are the eye sockets. So this bone, which is nearly absent in modern Homo sapiens, but most of the hominin species they share this characteristic. These supraorbital ridges they were quite thick in this Rhodesian skull, and as of the explanation, these are prominent, robust bone above eyes in early hominins, and it might have served multiple purposes such as structural reinforcement. That it these bones provided support to the skull, especially when chewing hard and tough foods, and they might have acted as a cue for non-verbal communication when verbal communication was not available in hominin species. As of skull, it is elongated and robust, which is a feature seen in Neanderthals and early Homo species. Now, facial features and nasal features. So, Rhodesian man had a broad face with large nasal openings, a trait that is often associated with adaptation to environmental condition. A wide nasal aperture may have helped in regulating breathing in difficult climate. So, if you well, I'm not very good at diagram. So, this one is these are the nasal openings. So, as of large nasal openings, which is a feature of those living in warm and humid climate. अब उस climate में large nasal openings जो है वो ज़रूरी होती है because this helps in humidifying the hot air. वरना वही hot air if it travels through the air passageway to the lungs, it might dry out the whole passage. But some might object कि यही चीज़ जो है ये cold climate में beneficial adaptation नहीं होगी because cold climate में large nasal opening मतलब large amount of cold air coming in and freezing the whole passage, which will be more lethal than drying out of lungs. But here, the context is about hominin species that existed during Middle Pleistocene. So this was a time of fluctuating environmental condition. Especially the climate was fluctuating between glacial and interglacial ages. So at one time it was cold, at other time it was warm, and due to this friction, due to this fluctuating condition, there were many other elements like nutritional needs, survival needs that might have needed high intensity activities such as chasing large games or fighting off predators. So because of these things, large nasal openings were necessary, and this is also one of the features that are found in the Rhodesian man. And you can see the advantages of large nasal openings. First, regulating breathing in different climates. So large nasal passages allow for better warming and humidification of air, which is beneficial in both hot and cold environment. And second, increase oxygen intake. The wider nose may have been advantageous for high energy activities, high intensity activities that were typical of those times. And these features are also observed in Neanderthals who lived in Ice Age Europe, suggesting that Rhodesian man may have faced fluctuating climate conditions that require physiological adaptation for survival. So ये जो nasal openings का है ये मैंने इसलिए बताया because in Allen and Bergman rule you might read about different physiological conditions, physiological adaptations to cold, and in that rule it is suggested that the people of cold climate they usually have constricted or narrow noses or narrow nasal passages, and अब उसका रीज़न जो है वो डिफरेंट है, जो आपको सजेस्ट किया कि इफ़ नेजल ओपनिंग्स आर लार्ज, देन large amount of cold air might freeze the whole passageway. But here the context is totally different. So this explanation was necessary. Now next, dentition and signs of disease. So one of the most remarkable aspects of Kabwe skull is severely worn and damaged teeth, which provide critical evidence about diet and health of this hominin. First, extensive dental decay cavities, making it one of the earliest known cases of severe tooth decay in human history. And dental abscesses and gum disease indicating prolonged oral health issues. Now, cause of dental decay. So, first, presence of cavities in Kabwe skull is unusual for early hominins because this thing has not been reported in other skulls or other hominin fossils. And these presence of cavities suggest that Rhodesian man consume carbohydrate-rich foods such as tubers and roots and honey. And this challenges previous assumption that early human primarily relied on meat-based diet, and here starch-based or carbohydrate-rich diet suggest dietary diversity. Now, as of next feature, robust limb bones and evidence of strong physicality. So, although the primary discovery was a skull, fragmentary limb bones found at the site suggest that Rhodesian man was a robustly built hominin, and these features align with other Homo heidelbergensis found a fossil found in Africa and Europe, which indicate strong, thick bone suitable for high active lifestyle, evidence of heavy muscle attachment for which suggests great physical strength and adaptation for endurance based hunting, possibly persistent hunting techniques. So again here the context, you can see the time of middle Pleistocene, which was a time of rough and rumble. Now let's proceed on to evolutionary significance and taxonomic debates on Rhodesian man. First, evolutionary importance of Rhodesian man, that it it act as a transition from early hominin Homo erectus to later species like Neanderthals and modern humans. Then the African origin of modern humans. So Rhodesian man is a part of a group of middle Pleistocene hominin that showcase increasing cranial capacity and more advanced tool making abilities, and its presence in Africa aligned with the out of Africa theory, which suggests that modern humans evolved in Africa before migrating to other continents. So, this excavation also uh, give uh, give support to this out of Africa theory. Then the fossils, they were similar to Rhodesian mans that were found in Jebel Irhoud, Morocco, and Ethiopia. All of these fossils, they indicate that anatomically modern traits gradually emerged within African population. So here, Rhodesian man is considered a key piece of evidence in African transitional modern, which propose that modern human features evolved gradually rather than a single sudden event. So the presence of this particular topic in UPSC, it has certain purpose because Rhodesian man, the discovery of this skull is very important to giving credence to both this theory. First, out of Africa theory, जो यहाँ पे समझा दिया है, and second, the African transitional model, which suggests that most of the human features, most of the hominin features, they developed in Africa before migrating out of it. Now, the next, a common ancestor to both Neanderthal and modern humans. So, some scientists propose that Homo heidelbergensis, which include fossil like Rhodesian man, was the last common ancestor of both Neanderthal and modern human. And this hypothesis is supported by first the large cranial capacity of Rhodesian man, which is around 1230 to 1300 cc, and its robust skull and brow ridges, that features that are more similar to Neanderthals. So This suggests that the African population of Homo heidelbergensis, including Rhodesian man, may have evolved into Homo sapiens, while European population giving rise to Neanderthals. So this is another interpretation important for UPSC perspective, because while drawing the phylogenetic tree, you might have come across difficulty in placing different fossils. So one such hypothesis, it supports the idea that the Homo heidelbergensis population, it might have gave way to modern Homo sapiens, whereas the European hominin species or European Homo erectus species, they might have give way to Neanderthals. Now, the next controversy is about its taxonomic place. Where does Rhodesian man belong? So this remains one of the most debated topics in paleoanthropology. First one is original classification, Homo rhodesiensis, जो हमने पहले देखा था. In 1921, when the skull was found, Arthur Smith Woodward, the first scientist to study the fossil, assigned it a new species, Homo rhodesiensis, because of its unique combination of archaic and modern features. However, this term fell out of favor when similarities between Rhodesian man and other fossils of Homo heidelbergensis, they came into picture. Now, including the second step was inclusion in Homo heidelbergensis. So many modern anthropologists, they consider Rhodesian man to be an African representative of Homo heidelbergensis, and fossils that are similar found from the same Pleistocene age, such as Sima de los Huesos, that is found in Spain around 430,000 years, and Arago, France, fossil that is placed around 400,000 years old. Both of these, they have been classified as Homo heidelbergensis, and they share similarities with Rhodesian man. However, critics argue that Homo heidelbergensis is too broad a category and may actually represent multiple lineages rather than single species. Now, the third argument about its taxonomic placement, that Rhodesian man might act as the early form of Homo sapiens. And this hypothesis is based on certain traits such as the increased cranial capacity and the shape of skull, which show similarity to later Homo sapiens. Now, one more interpretation, that Rhodesian man might share some links with Denisovans. So some geneticists, they speculate that African Homo heidelbergensis population, including Rhodesian man, might be related to mysterious Denisovans and extinct hominin species discovered in Siberia. So while this hypothesis cannot be checked out, cannot be tested, because no DNA has been recovered from the Kabwe skull, but future advances in ancient DNA extraction technique may clarify whether Rhodesian man contributed to Denisovan or modern human ancestry. Now, the fossil evidence is supporting different views. The comparative chart. The Kabwe skull, location Zambia, estimated age 299 years. Classification Homo heidelbergensis or Homo rhodesiensis. Similarity to Rhodesian man, unique mixture of archaic and modern traits. Now, Jebel Irhoud, found in Morocco, placed around 315,000 years, classified as early Homo sapiens, and had more modern facial features. Then Sima de los Huesos, found in Spain, placed around 430,000 years, classified as Homo heidelbergensis, ancestor of Neanderthals, and features has large brow ridges and smaller brain case. And finally, heart of fossil, found in Ethiopia, placed around 160,000 and classified as Homo sapiens idaltu, and physical features are more advanced, closer to modern human. Now, the next dimension is implication for human evolution. So, the debate surrounding Rhodesian man, they have important implication for understanding human evolution. First one is challenges the traditional linear model. This fossil it supports model of human evolution where multiple hominin species coexisted and interacted rather than a single straight line progression from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens. So this uh, uh, the difficulty in tracing out a clear phylogenetic tree has always haunted anthropology because it is not clear how the hominin species gave way to modern humans. In short, how modern humans they came to evolve from Australopithecus. Now, with every new discovery, every new fossil, every new excavation, a new branch in this phylogenetic tree, it emerges out. And as of now, we have taken a small part of this whole tree from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens. Now, it has been generally considered that modern Homo sapiens they directly evolved out of Homo erectus, but the presence of many hominin species, including Homo heidelbergensis and Rhodesian man, they challenges this linear model that rather than a single straight line progression, straight line evolution from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens, the the hominin species they charted a different river-like course. The second implication that it supports an African origin of modern humans. So, the presence of advanced traits in African fossils, the fossils, most of which were found in East African Valley, and the fossils, most of which belong to Middle Pleistocene, all of them they had shown advanced traits, and this strengthened the argument that modern humans evolved in Africa before migrating out of it. Then the third implication is that it raises question about hominin diversity. So if Homo heidelbergensis and Homo rhodesiensis were distinct species, it means that multiple lineages hominins were evolving in Africa and Europe simultaneously. So again, the difficulty is about taxonomic placement. Now let's move on to cultural and behavioral aspect of Rhodesian man. So first, it should be kept in mind that the fossilized remains of Rhodesian man they are scarce. First thing that it was found in a mining setting, and the discovery was largely accidental, and other supporting evidences are not there. So most of the interpretations regarding cultural and behavioral dimension they are largely speculative due to absence of direct archaeological evidence. But here जितना भी available है जितनी भी interpretations हैं they have been arrived at by analyzing contemporary hominin groups क्योंकि अगर Rhodesian man इसके फिजिकल एनाटॉमिकल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक जो हैं उनको कंपेयर किया जाए स्पेशली होमो हाइडलबर्गेंसिस सो होमो हाइडलबर्गेंसिस के जितने भी स्पीशीज जितने भी फॉसिल्स हैं जहाँ जहाँ से भी मिले हैं यूरोप अफ्रीका एंड एशिया जहाँ से भी उन सबको कंपेयर करके वी हैव अराइव एट दिस कल्चरल एंड बिहेवियरल आस्पेक्ट सो फर्स्ट इज टूल यूज एंड टेक्नोलॉजिकल प्रोफिशिएंसी सो जैसे after the uranium series dating, it was found that the fossil belonged to this age, 299,000 years. It was also the time of arrival of Homo sapiens. So, this time, known as the Middle Pleistocene, the period in which the Rhodesian man lived, it saw significant development in stone tool technology. So, the most common tool culture associated with hominins of this era is the Acheulean industry, which gradually transition into more advanced Middle Stone Age technology. First, let's have a look at Acheulean tools. So these tools, such as hand axes and cleavers, they were widely used by Homo erectus and early Homo heidelbergensis. These tools were bifacially flake, means जो भी tools हैं ये दोनों साइड से they were chiseled and shaped. Then this tool industry suggests that Rhodesian man possessed the technical skills, hand-eye coordination, and cognitive planning abilities. Now, the second interpretation that this Ashurian tool technology transitioned to Middle Stone Age technology. So, around 300,000 years ago, a new tool making technique emerged in Africa, which led to development of MSA tools. And these tools include flakes, scrapers, and points. So, the discovery of MSA artifacts in Zambia, it suggests that Rhodesian man or a closely related hominin may have been part of this technological shift. और जो time है दोनों का, the the emergence of MSA technology and then fossil placement of Rhodesian man, it suggests that both of them, they might have been part of the same technological shift. Then this Levallois technique, a complex stone flaking method, it also began to appear during this period. Now, if you are not aware about this technique, Levallois technique is like uh, flaking a stone tools from all sides. Like this is a stone tool, so it is flaked radially on all its size to give it desired shape, and then these flakes they are used for multiple purposes. So this Levallois technique, it works in two part. First, a core is prepared. So this stone artifact, this stone tool, it is core, and then these flakes are removed of various sizes for multiple purposes. Let's say this is a stone tool. Here, first it will be shaped and chiseled so that it can act as a core. Then various shapes, such as if one crescent shape tool is needed, so this flake will be removed out of it. This whole thing, this whole technique, it is known as Levallois technique. And the use of these tools, they indicate that Rhodesian man likely engaged in variety of tasks from butchering animals to woodworking and possibly even crafting rudimentary spears. Then the hunting strategy and subsistence patterns. So the robust build and dental structure of Rhodesian man suggests that a predatory lifestyle with a mixed diet. Evidence for hunting and meat consumption. So the presence of butchered animal bone at various African sites from this period, Middle Pleistocene, it suggests that large game hunting was a significant part of hominin subsistence. Then the development of MSA tool, it also indicates possible use of projectile weapons such as spears or throwers that would have been helpful in hunting. Then the cut marks on bones found at contemporary site indicate that hominin engaged in systematic butchering practices, implying cooperative hunting rather than mere scavenging. So, even if most of the interpretation are speculative, but as you can say, the stratigraphic context, the geological context is there. Since uh, most of the proximate species, most of the nearby species, they belong to the same time and engage in employed same type of tools, either Acheulean or MSA tools. So by comparing various artifacts, various contemporary evidences, these interpretations have been arrived at. The next interpretation, plant-based diet and gathering practices. So despite reliance on meat, Rhodesian man likely supplemented their diets with root, tubers, nuts, and fruits. And the wide nasal openings in the skull, they might have suggest an adaptation for endurance-based hunting. So here again, जो पहले समझाया था, that these nasal openings, they have a critical evolutionary significance here, that they suggest endurance based hunting or at least high intensive activities. And high intensive activities at that time, uh, they can be either hunting or fighting off predator or running from predators. And finally, all these speculations they suggest a flexible dietary pattern, making Rhodesian man an opportunistic omnivore capable of adapting to different environment. और फिर जो पिछले वाले लेक्चर्स में हमने देखा था, especially the taxonomic adaptations, primate adaptation, here this behavior, this omnivorous behavior, it started with Australopithecus. In fact, the whole survival of hominin species from Australopithecus to Homo sapiens, it is directly related to omnivory. So it is the omnivory that help in our survival. It is omnivory that reduce our canines, reduce the muzzle, increase the shape of our face, helped in evolution of our brain structure, because large brain means large amount of energy, large amount of nutrition that was needed. और ये सिर्फ omnivory से हो सकता है. Only meat based diet, which is unpredictable at that time, could not have helped in survival of our whole stock. Now, as of social structure and cooperative behavior, so though no direct evidence exists regarding the social structure of Rhodesian man, comparison with other archaic human provide a framework for understanding. First, Rhodesian man likely lived in groups and engaged in cooperative hunting. So, given their reliance on large game hunting, Rhodesian man likely lived in small to medium sized group that coordinated hunts and shared resources. And this cooperative hunting required communication, planning, and possibly even early form of language and gestural communication. Second, the same cooperative behavior might have required care for the injured and the elderly. So it was clear that this skull showed sign of severe dental infection. But if the individual survived for some time with this debilitating condition, it suggests that group members may have care for the sick or injured individual. And such social cooperation is crucial mark of increasing intelligence and emotional bonding among early hominins. Now the next interpretation, possible symbolic behavior and cognitive complexity. So symbolic thought that is marked by art, personal adornment, and ritualistic behavior is a key distinguishing feature of modern human cognition. While we do not have any clear evidence for Rhodesian man, but certain indirect clues suggest that they were early cognitive sophistication. First one is use of pigments and body decoration. At some contemporaneous sites in Africa that belong to the same time, including the Blombus cave, red ochre pigments have been found. Red ochre pigment means pigment of red color, and this pigment might have used for body decoration or symbolic marking. So, so although we do not have direct link between Rhodesian man and these findings, but it is possible, it is speculative that Middle Pleistocene hominin in Africa they were experimenting with symbolic expression. Now, as of another social practice of burials, uh, we do not have any clear evidence, but um, the presence of possible grave-like pits in later African hominin site suggests that mortuary practices may have begun to develop during this period. Now, as of fire use and uh, the controlled use of fire is documented in Africa as early as 1.5 million years ago. Now, अगर कोई चीज़ was available that early in time, so middle Pleistocene में ये fire use जो है this would definitely exist. So sites in Africa from 300 to 200,000, this shows increased evidence of charred bones and burnt plant material, suggesting fire use has become regular part of hominin life. Now, the use of fire for cooking would have made food more digestible and nutrient rich, supporting large brain development. So, for UPSC perspective and for even anthropological perspective, you should remember these small cues that help in survival and evolution of species. So, all in all, again, the whole interpretation is speculative because no direct fire evidence can be linked to Rhodesian man, but contemporaneous site they imply that he likely benefited from or actively engaged in controlled fire. Now, the pathological insights in evidence of disease in early humans. Well, as seen earlier, Kabwe Skull or Rhodesian Man is particularly significant from pathological grounds because it presents one of the earliest evidence of chronic disease in hominin fossil. And by analyzing its skeletal abnormalities, scientists have gained a deeper understanding of how infectious diseases, nutritional deficiencies, and environmental factors shaped human evolution. So, the signs of severe dental disease in the Kabwe skull, which is presence of extensive dental decay and infection, the condition which is known as periodontal disease. So, the teeth of Kabwe skull show large cavities, dental caries, abscesses, and missing enamel that suggested chronic tooth infection. And this case is unusual for early humans because cavities they are, they are they are of very late origin, and pre-agricultural diets they were usually low in sugar and starches. Then the extent of the damage suggests that Rhodesian men likely experienced significant pain and difficulty eating. Now the second, periapical abscess, a life-threatening infection. Then scientists have identified a periapical abscess, a severe bacterial infection at root of a tooth. And if untreated, such infection, periapical abscesses, can spread to the bloodstream, can cause septicemia, causing severe illness and even death. So the survival of individual for a prolonged period with this condition suggests social care and group support. They may have played a role in sustaining the afflicted individual. Now, the possible evidence of chronic disease, skull lesions and bone abnormalities. So beyond dental disease, the Kabwe skull also exhibits other pathological signs such as hypervitaminosis A, syphilis, or other bacterial infections. First, hypervitaminosis, excess vitamin A toxicity. Some researchers believe that the lesions on the skull might be indicative of hypervitaminosis, a condition that is caused by excessive intake of vitamin A. And this condition can result in bone thickening, skull lesions, and neurological symptoms. And if correct, this provide evidence that Rhodesian man's diet may have included a large amount of animal liver, which is rich in vitamin A, and that is what caused the toxicity because excessive intake of vitamin A. Now, the second pathology is treponemal disease, an ancestral form of syphilis. So some scientists have suggested that pitting and lesion on skull that might be indicative of a treponemal infection, uh, which is an early form of syphilis or yaws. So treponemal diseases are caused by bacteria of Treponema genus and affect the bones, leading to characteristic lesions. And if true, this could be one of the earliest known example of infectious disease in human ancestors. Now, the third dimension, nutritional deficiencies. So, Rhodesian man lived in a period where dietary diversity was critical for survival. So, here the angle of the dimension of iron deficiency, anemia, and bone porosity, it suggests that Rhodesian man may have suffered from uh, cribra orbitalia, a condition where porous lesions appear in the eye sockets due to iron deficiency anemia. and this could indicate a diet that is low in iron rich food or chronic infection that impaired iron absorption. Then, this anemia could have weakened the individual, making them more vulnerable to disease. So, in short, it suggests that Rhodesian man might have been suffering from iron deficiency anemia, and then other dimension, he might have been suffering from vitamin D deficiency. So, although no direct evidence exists, Middle Pleistocene hominins who lived in low sunlit environments may have been at risk of vitamin D deficiency, leading to bone softening disorders like rickets or osteomalacia. Now, the next interpretation about trauma and injuries. So, life in the Middle Pleistocene was undoubtedly harsh, with the frequent exposure to predators, intergroup conflicts, and accident in rugged landscape. Then, the skeletal remains of many early hominins that show evidence of trauma and fractures. But the Kabwe skull, as in that way, does not show clear evidence of traumatic injuries. But other hominin fossils that are found in same period, the contemporary fossils, they exhibit heel fractures, blunt force trauma, and puncture wounds. Now, the implication for human evolution and disease resistance. So the pathological conditions observed in Rhodesian man, it provide important insight into early human susceptibility to infection disease and how our ancestors may have developed immune responses to chronic infections. Then it also suggests the role of social structure in survival of individuals with severe infections. And then the evolutionary pressure that shaped modern human health as some of the disease that was seen in early hominins, they continue to affect the humans today. Now, the legacy and impact on human evolution. So, the Rhodesian man or the Kabwe fossil, they acted as representative of archaic Homo sapiens or Homo heidelbergensis. This Middle Pleistocene hominin provide valuable insight into transition from early human species like Homo erectus to modern Homo sapiens. So first, the evolutionary link between Homo heidelbergensis and modern humans. So the discovery of Rhodesian man played a significant role in shaping theories on human evolution. So some researchers consider Rhodesian man a part of Homo heidelbergensis, a species that is widely regarded as the common ancestor of both Neanderthals and modern humans in Africa. But others suggest that Kabwe skull represent an archaic Homo sapiens, demonstrating the gradual emergence of modern human characteristic in Africa. And this debate highlights the complexity of human evolution, where a clear-cut or linear phylogenetic tree is not possible. Now, the second implication is for out of Africa theory. So, the presence of archaic Homo sapiens feature in Rhodesian man supports the African multi-regional model, which suggests that modern human trait began developing gradually in Africa before final dispersal out of continent. And this again, जो पहले कहा था, it is especially important for UPSC perspective because this out of Africa theory, African multi-regional theory, Africa transitional theory, all of them, this suggests the same thing, that these advanced features that we have seen in various hominin fossils, they develop in Africa before hominin species moved out of Africa. So uh, earlier it was believed that most of the advanced trait they they started developing only after the early hominin species moved out of Africa. But the the more the fossils are found, or even when we talk about the Rhodesian man, the this fossil, it indicates that such advanced features they develop in Africa itself, and this this discovery or this implication is further supported by various fossils that were found in Jebel Irhoud or that were found in Omo Kibis, Ethiopia. They share certain similarities with Rhodesian man, reinforcing Africa's role as cradle of modern human evolution. Now, as of survival strategy and adaptive intelligence, the association of Middle Stone Age tool technology, it suggests complex problem solving, tool refinement, and possibly early symbolic communication. And the evidence of chronic disease in Kabwe Skull, it implies the social support and care that may have been present that mark the gradual evolution towards human-like empathy and cooperation. Now, the third dimension about fire use and expanding habitats. So, although no direct evidence of fire use has been linked to Rhodesian man, but its contemporary they likely use fire for cooking, protection, and tool making. Now, contribution to modern human genetics. So, one of the most intriguing aspects of Rhodesian man's legacy is the question of genetic contribution to modern population. So, while Neanderthals and Denisovans they contributed genetic material to Eurasian population, some researchers speculate that archaic African hominins like Rhodesian man may have influenced the genetic diversity of present-day African population. But the lack of ancient DNA from African fossils due to continent's climate they make it difficult to confirm the direct genetic link. So this one is again important for UPSC perspective that we have uh, we have traced the genetic linkages of the population of Europe and Asia to Neanderthals and Denisovans, but we have not been able to repeat the same for the African population because of this the climate of African continent. So this hot and humid climate it hastens the decomposition of organic material. So that's why the ancient DNA from most of the fossils cannot be recovered. But uh, all eyes are on modern DNA technique that can extract DNA from these ancient sites. Now, the lessons for modern human health and evolution. So, the severe dental infection that is seen in Kabwe skull highlight the long-standing impact of oral health on human being. Then the presence of treponemial diseases, that is the ancient ancestral form of syphilis, it suggests that infectious diseases have shaped human evolution for hundreds of thousands of years. Now, the next element, the adaptation to environmental stressors. So, the study of Rhodesian man's skeletal helps research understand how early human adapted to nutritional deficiency, climate variations, and pathogens. Now, the enduring importance in paleoanthropology. So, here this fossil it helps in comparative analysis with other fossils. So these ongoing studies they continue to compare Rhodesian man's feature with other early hominin fossils across Africa and Europe. And here, this fossil provides a potential for ancient DNA extraction because most of the African fossils they rarely yield ancient DNA, but all eyes on all eyes are on future advancement in preservation and extraction techniques. They may provide genetic insights into this population and those that were found from African continent. So this is it. Thank you very much.